This is an instructional video on how to properly soak your gel beads. You need to get those gel beads to 7 to 8 millimeter gel balls. And if they're not soaked properly and they're too small, then your gel blaster will not function properly. So this is of utmost importance when it comes to using your gel blaster. The nice thing with these are they can't grow too big. They can only grow to 7 to 8 millimeters. So as long as you're doing this right, they're going to get to the correct size. If you do it wrong and they're too small, that's where you run into problems. Okay, so typically I soak gel beads in containers like this just because I have a bunch of them. They're airtight containers, they're reusable. All right, so any type of container works though. I prefer to have lids on them just because, again, once they're done, you can just drain them and then leave them in those containers for up to 2 weeks. So that's what I end up doing. Now you'll get your pack of gel beads here, and you certainly can use full packs of gel beads. These packets can come in like 5,000s, 10,000s, even 20,000s. You don't need to use the whole packet at once. You can just cut off a corner and then just use the amount that you need to, or even just cut off the top. Just make sure you tape this shut or put it in like a Ziploc, just because the beads will get all over. They won't go bad, they'll just get all over the place. So to put in perspective the amount of water that you need, if we're looking to do about 500 gel beads, that's about a tablespoon of, or teaspoon of beads, right? So I happen to have a little teaspoon here. So just to try to give you an idea, that's about 500, okay? So in this container, we should be able to do about 1,000. So I'm gonna go ahead, take another little, right? So for about 1,000, going with a liter of water is a good amount. So that's why I have the bottle here. You don't need to use bottled water, just it makes it easier for this video. So I'm gonna pour all the water in here. And then you're just gonna give it time. You're gonna give it 4 to 6 hours. And there's a couple things when you come back to them in 4 to 6 hours, as long as there's room left over in the container, and as long as there's water left over, because you never guess perfect, then you know they got big enough, because there was no constraint from the space of the container, and there was no constraint from the lack of water. So really, I always say there's 3 critical things. You need to give them plenty of room to grow in the container, plenty of water to feed them, and then that time, 4 to 6 hours. Once we check back on these, what we'll end up doing is there should be some water left over, and we should have some room in the container. We'll go ahead, we'll strain those gel balls out. If you have a little strainer, that works nicely. Otherwise, you can kind of use the lid. And then you can store them for up to 2 weeks. All right, so pretty straightforward process. And again, they can't get too big. So as long as you follow this, give them room, give them enough water and enough time, they will get to the correct size, and your gel blaster should work great. All right, so these have soaked overnight, so they've definitely had 4 to 6 hours. You can see there's still plenty of room in the container, right? And there's plenty of water. So I didn't need that whole liter. Again, I just done a teaspoon. And I definitely didn't need all that water, but what I wanted to show you is you want there to be water left over just so that you know they grew big enough. And you can see there's space left over, so we know they grew big enough. They can't grow too big. So right now they're really wet, and we need to get rid of some of that water. So you certainly can, if you have something like a strainer, you can go ahead and just kind of strain them into, over a container like this, or over a sink. Obviously, this is just for the sake of the video. Go ahead, strain out that water, give them a good shake, and then you can put them right back into this container. And now we can store them in this container for up to about 2 weeks, as long as you put the lid on the container, right? So make sure you keep it tight, airtight, and they should be okay for about 2 weeks. You may need to refresh them with a little bit of water if you wait that long, but at that point anyway, they may start to just disintegrate when you shoot them. So that's kind of the upper limit on how long they can last. But if you soak them like this, they're definitely going to be big enough at that 7 to 8 millimeters, which means your blaster is going to function properly. So that's how you do it. Good luck. Remember, this is the most critical step in ensuring that your gel ball blaster works properly.